to be a short video about Tibet and about Rangchen. So I want to start off with that for the younger generations, such as me included, I think it is of great importance that we all try to keep our culture, try to practice our culture, try to learn the language such as I am doing right now. And the most important thing of all would be to fight for an independent Tibet. And in following points, I'm going to explain why this is so important. So, number one, as we all know, China, when they occupied us back then, they told us we were allowed to stay an autonomous country, which means we were allowed to basically live out our culture and they would respect it. That's what they promised us. And it turned out that this was completely bullshit because they didn't respect our culture. They put us into concentration camps. They killed children, monks, adults. They didn't allow us to strive or have the mindset of a free, independent Tibet. This is a dictatorship we're talking about. China has the no religion policy. This is their foundation. That's how they are built. That's what they believe. So why the hell would they allow Tibetans who follow the religion of Buddhism, why would they allow to practice those things? This goes against their own values. So their intention of allowing us to practice our culture was always just a trap and a promise which was never kept, which they will never keep in the future either. So coming to this, now there are sadly some people who believe when they follow Umelam, the middle way, that it will bring peace to the Tibetans. And I've got a question for those people. How will it bring peace? Do we have peace right now? We don't have peace right now. We don't have the respect we want as Tibetans. We do not get treated as human beings. We are not treated like just living beings. Like there are specific elementary things you do and how you speak to human beings and how you respect others. This is not the case. If you have a Free Tibet flag as a tattoo in Tibet, they will cut it out of your skin. There are many cases where this has happened, where people who had any kind of tattoo which was going into the freedom of Tibet, they cut it out of the skin. This is not freedom. This is not peace. Tibetan culture, we braided our hairs for centuries and centuries, and this is part of our culture. And now, since Tibet has been occupied, they don't want us to do this anymore. In Lhasa, they only allow Tibetan women to use this as for tourists to braid their hairs. When it comes to money reasons, China is always in. Everything which doesn't have to do with money, they are out. They will not give a fuck about it. There are people who are put into prisons, staying there for 20, 30 years because they want a free Tibet. How is that peace? They are starting to call our country Tibet. They're giving it Chinese names. They're giving everything Chinese names. You think if we stay under Chinese occupation, we will be able to live in peace? No. They want to make us Chinese. They try to make Chinese people breed with Tibetan people so the genes get mixed. And at some point, hopefully, that's what they think, is that there won't be any Tibetans left anymore. That has been the plan. It will be the same plan in 50 years, if not worse. And the less we fight for it, the more a dictator will think, oh wow, that's easy, I can do anything I want to. It will become even worse. If they see, okay, we're not doing anything, the own people who lost their nation want to be part of China, what do you think, what message does it bring to the Chinese president or to the Chinese government? They will use whoever is weak We're not supposed to show weakness. We're supposed to unify as Tibetans. We're supposed to all have the same goal of Rangtsen. We're supposed to help our fellow Tibetans in Tibet. We're supposed to keep the hope up in exile while they suffer there. We're not supposed to stab the Tibetans in the back. Everybody who is part of the Dharna group, everybody who is supporting Umelam is basically supporting that our Tibetans in Tibet get stabbed in the back. This is betrayal. In my eyes, this is worse than betrayal. And the funny thing is, a lot of those Dharna people, they live in Paris and India in exile. They live somewhere outside of Tibet, but they think that they have a right to say what happens in Tibet. They enjoy all the benefits of the exile, and then they think they can decide for the Tibetans. Well, if they want to decide for the Tibetans what happens in Tibet, then they shall fucking move back to Tibet. If they like it so much, they shall do this. Or are you being a coward? Pempa Tsering, the Sikyong, has never deserved that political place. He has never deserved it. What did he do? What did he do for our Tibetan society? And he calls him a Tibetan. He shouldn't be deciding about the Tibetans at all. When it comes to political leaders, there are specific adjectives in personality they have to have. Something as reliable, trustworthy, a good leader, somebody who can talk good, somebody who can express good. Does he have any of those traits? He's drunk. Most of the times he's drunk. In the interviews, he's saying a bunch of, excuse me if I say this, but bullshit. He has no political way of expressing himself. All he talks about is nonsense. He doesn't do anything for us. Nothing for us, and with that I mean for us Tibetan who want to free Tibet. He only works with Chinese to get more supporters in Dharna, who then help him to achieve what he has to do for the Chinese. Pempa Tsering is the worst Sikyong you could ever have, and you should definitely never vote him, because he does not present the traits of a leader. He does not represent a person with a stable mindset. Which political leader goes completely drunk to interviews? It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And here in Western society, when we compare that to the Tibetan government right now with the Dharnas and Pempa Tsering, Western society, the political people would be saying like, what the fuck? What the fuck is he doing? Like, he's coming drunk to press conferences? Like, who is this? How come he got that position? They would be totally questioning what this person is doing here. And so should you. You do not want to follow and decide for Tibetans what happens in Tibet by listening to a drunk person. By listening to a person who doesn't have themselves under control. By listening to a person who goes against his own nation. And all the other political people who support China when it comes to Tibet, all of those, they do not belong into the Tibetan government. Like I said, it is the Tibetan government. Tibet, not China. They shall go to Tibet, they shall go to China, and then they can try to work with the Chinese government. If that's what they want to do, they shall do this. But who gave you the allowance to stay here with Tibetans in the government and decide about Tibet? You should change your passport to being a Chinese. You should be living in China, and you should be doing whatever you want to do in China, but not in the exile government of Tibet. We are supposed to represent the Tibetans, the refugees who want their country back, the refugees who lost family members, who lost their kids, who lost their possessions, who lost their lives because of the Chinese. The fact that there are some people who think that Umilam is the right way to go lets me question, why are you Tibetans in first place in exile? Why? You escaped from the Chinese occupation. Are you aware of that? You escaped from the Chinese occupation. That means if the Chinese occupation was a good thing, why did you escape into exile? This is a joke. This is really controversial for those people who want to be part of China. Why did you escape in the first time? Do you get paid money from the Chinese? Because all the people are slowly starting to think that. We're not stupid. We know you get a benefit from supporting China. We know you get money. And it's only a short time of period till we find out that who of those Tibetans who support China will find out who gets paid. And when that time comes, you will be very embarrassed. Not just did you stab your own nation's back, but you did it for money as a Buddhist, as a Tibetan. You went against all morals, you did every sin. You cannot call yourself a Tibetan afterwards. For us younger people, it is of high importance that we keep our strength, we keep our hope high. We will make sure that Tibet will be free because China, the Chinese government, they have a lot of enemies. They make a lot of enemies because of how they are, how they act, what they do to other people, how they treat other nations. It's not just Tibetans, it's Uyghurs, Taiwan, Hong Kong, all those people. And if China had the chance, they would try to get a one world policy. That's what they would do, and they wouldn't respect anybody's culture. If a snake bites you in your hand, like China did when they told us we will have an autonomous country, and this didn't happen, when a snake bites you in your hand, do you go back to the snake and say, hey, let's stay together? No, this is not like, that's not the right mental attitude. Something must be wrong with you if you think this. And you must be naive if you think that you can go back somewhere where they treated you wrong. This is not going to change. A snake only sheds its skin, but it still stays a snake. Same as with the Chinese government. They will always stay the same. And they will try everything in their power to mentally brainwash us Tibetans in Tibet and in the exile. They will pay people to brainwash others like they already do with Dharna and with the Tibetans who want to be a part of China, like they pay them. They will do anything in their power to make sure that us Tibetans, the ones who are naive, will believe that it is better to stay with them under occupation. And everybody who's stupid enough to believe that, well, everybody who's stupid enough to believe that basically betrayed their own nation. And if you look back on it when you die, and when you know that your vote and your opinion on supporting to be part of China is the reason why there are more Tibetans suffering. When you die, you will know this. You already know this anyways. You just do it for money. But there will be a point where you cannot take things back, where you've already done damage, where people died because of you, where people got imprisoned because of you, where people got mistreated with violence because of you, Dharnas. That's a point where you will feel regret for it. But then karma is here. And in your next life, I hope you get reborn as a pig. And there's a high chance you will get reborn as an animal if you believe in Buddhism and if you have done so much damage, if you've hurt so many people, if you didn't support the people who need your support right now, your own nation. This is really, I'm startled by the fact that there are people who go against their own nation, where people suffer in prisons. And I'm very, very surprised that this Pampatsering and the Dharnas, that they think they can do this and there will be no consequences. There will be consequences. There will be many consequences for you guys. Once we find out who got paid, once we find out who did what, and every lie comes to truth at some point, you are done. Your reputation is done. You're only seen as a greedy person. And you will not be respected. And when Tibet shall become free, the Dharnas shall not enter Tibet. The Dharnas didn't want to enter Tibet. They shall enter China. So when the day comes where Tibet is free, you guys shouldn't be allowed to stay with Tibetans. You didn't want to in first hand, right? Like, you can't change your opinion when Tibet becomes free and say, oh, now I want to be part of Tibet. No, that's not how it works. Every person who politically supports the Chinese and Dharna and Pampatsering, they shouldn't be allowed into Tibet. And when Tibet comes free, and I believe Tibet will be free at some point, the Tibetans who fought for free Tibet, they will make sure you have no access to Tibet. And that is going to be also your consequence. Pampatsering's strategy. So, like I said before, how do you think a political power such as China is going to try to get more power, other than the occupation of the country? They will have spies around the world to look at how the situations are around Tibetans in exile. That's what they will do first. Then they will think, okay, how can we separate the Tibetans from each other? Because that's the best way to make Tibet even weaker. And then they choose people who are in need of money, who are greedy, to work for them and to penetrate other people's mind. This is a political strategy. All the people who think, oh, well, maybe Umalam is the right way. All of you people, you should question in your head if you're not being naive. Because he is using you guys like marionettes. You know, like a puppet on the strings. You're the puppet. They're just laughing at you guys because they think, oh, it works so good. We managed to make the own Tibetans believe that it's better to live under the Chinese occupation. This is really embarrassing, and it's naive and it's stupid to believe that he's a good leader when he is just using you guys. Using you to make sure that he does his task where he gets paid. And then when it comes to other people which get used to brainwash Tibetans, such as some YouTubers in exile, who live in the exile, who are paid to talk about Umelam on YouTube, who are paid to make the Tibetans want to be a part of China. Those Tibetans, like the YouTubers, they live in exile, most of them. The ones which I just remember are Moteyang and Chuki. They both live in exile. And both of them support China. And both of them attack people who try to fight for a free Tibet. But they live in exile. Although they say they want to be a part of China, they still choose to live in exile. Now, I don't know how controversial that is. Doesn't that show that they get like benefits from supporting China? That's not their real opinion. They don't actually want to be part of China. Why are they staying in exile? And about those YouTubers and the people, like I said, who support China, you guys should be careful. Because there are people who know about how you got into exile. And who know that you were not truthful about the reasons of why you went into exile. There are a lot of Tibetans who didn't actually escape from Tibet, but who lied to others in order to get to exile. And those who support China and lied to get in exile, I'm asking you guys, why did you lie about it? Why did you want to go to exile? I thought you wanted to be a part of China. Or like, are you bipolar? Do you have like a mental disorder where you're like, I want to be a part of China. No, I want to stay in exile. I want to be a part of China. I want to stay in exile. Like, make a decision. If you want Tibet to be a part of China, then make a decision and go to China. Don't stay in exile, because nobody will think you are reliable. Nobody will believe any shit which comes out of your mouth. How can they believe you? How can people believe you if you say two things at once? You say that one thing but do the other thing? I don't know, like, that's not a good way to get the attention of people or the trust of people. And that's exactly why a lot of people do not respect people like you. Because you are lying about your intentions. And people will make sure that if things continue like this, and if those YouTubers keep opening their mouth big about such things, oh well, then people will make sure you get banned out of exile, and then you'll have to go back to China. Because you lied in person about how, like about escaping from Tibet, when that was not the case. Like, I would be really careful in your situations, the ones who support China, because when there are going to be lawsuits filed against you guys, and you make YouTube videos saying we want to be part of China, but the reason you went to another country is because you escaped Tibet from the Chinese occupation, the government at the place where, or the countries where you're staying, is gonna be like, what? Like, I thought that person escaped from Tibet. Like, how are they supporting Tibet now? How are they supporting China on YouTube? You know, like, if somebody will file some lawsuits against you, you're really like, you're fucked. So I would be careful about what things you try to spread on the internet. And also, when I talked about the political strategy of the Chinese, they want to divert us. Yutsang Amdo Kampa Kam. We all are part of Tibet. We are all Tibetans. We are a lot of Tibetans. We're not that, like, less. Only if we are separated. Now, it's way easier for them if we're separated, because they can focus on one small group, then on the other small group, and then on the other ones. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to separate us, our opinions. They're gonna try to cause problems, discussions between us. They're gonna try to cause people insulting each other, people starting to, like, say this region is bad and this region is bad. That's exactly their plan. And everybody who participates in that has enabled the Chinese to get through.